So it's all over the news. The junior doctors here in the UK are striking because they simply are not paid enough. Now, whilst that is true, over the last year of working as a doctor, I've thankfully been able to buy assets, invest in the stock market, and take multiple trips abroad, all through having an effective system that allows me to manage my money and take my salary even further. So in this video, I'll be taking you guys through exactly how I'm able to track my finances and budget my money after payday, and exactly what I do with my money once I get paid. What is going on, guys? My name is Kenji and welcome back to the channel. Hopefully it's not the first time you're watching one of my videos, but just in case it is, I'm a doctor working in London, and I really hope this video is helpful to you guys learning how to manage your money, whether you're a doctor or an engineer, literally no matter what field you are in, no matter what age you are. It's one of the most essential and basic skills that unfortunately we're not actually taught in school. So starting off, the main thing is you need to do an audit on your finances. You need to know exactly where you're spending money and how much money you're spending in each of those categories. It's actually so surprising how many people I speak to who don't know exactly how much they're actually earning, how much they actually spend, and where they actually spend their money. So it's super important, guys. If you don't actually know how much money you're spending, then you won't actually know how much money you actually have left over after paying all of your bills and things like that, to then go ahead and invest and save up money and put money on the side. So the first step we're going to work out is how much money am I spending on a monthly basis? How much does it cost me to actually live and get by on life? So let's start off with that first. So the way that I personally do this is by having and using an Excel file. I'll actually leave this Microsoft Excel file down below in the description so you can copy and paste it and put your own numbers in. But let me actually take you guys through my Excel file over here. So on the left, we have our fixed expenses. So these are things that you know on a monthly basis is definitely coming out of your account. These are things like food, fuel, rent, council tax, water. These are all the fixed costs that you know for certain will be leaving your account. On the right hand side here, we have the amount. So for me, that's in pounds. This is exactly how much you're spending on each of those categories. And it's super important you know exactly how much you'll be left with after paying for all of these fixed expenses. And this is exactly how you do that. So this is all an example. Obviously, these numbers are random. But what I want you to do, guys, is to actually write your own list of fixed expenses down and write how much that is. So for example, in my case, I am guessing I spend, let's say, £200 on food. I spend £240 a month on fuel, obviously rent as well. Put a number in there for yourself, water, Wi-Fi. And then what you want to do, what my Excel file actually does, is that it adds up all of these expenses with all of my subscriptions. Now, living in today's world, we know we spend a bunch of money on subscriptions. It's impossible these days to live without Spotify or Apple Music or Netflix and all those things that you regularly pay for. So down here as well, I have my monthly subscriptions that I pay for. You know, I pay for Evernote, Spotify, Instapaper, all of these different apps on a monthly basis. Then what you want to do is add up all of your fixed expenses here with all of your subscriptions, and that gives you a total number here, which is your total expenses. So I know that in my case, after paying for literally everything that I pay for on a monthly basis, that costs me £1,800 here as an example. So £1,800 is exactly, I know for certain how much money will be coming out of my account. Of course, these numbers will vary. For example, how much I spend on food might vary, how much I spend on entertainment. So entertainment being going out with my friends, that might vary. But I know that roughly I need to set aside £1,800 in order to actually get by. Now that's the first step, doing an audit on your finances. Now, after knowing exactly how much you spend on a monthly basis, what you also want to find out is how much you have left over after paying for all of these total expenses. So this is where all the maths comes in, but don't worry, Microsoft Excel is really good at doing the maths for you. So if you're rubbish at maths, don't worry about that. Over here, as we can see, guys, we have your salary after deductions. Now, what I mean by that is this value here is how much you earn on a monthly basis after you've paid for your tax, after you paid for your national insurance, all of those things that automatically come out of your account to pay for. I'm talking here about your take-home pay. So how much actually hits your bank account once you receive your salary. Again, I'm using a random number here. Let's say it's £2,660 that I get in my bank account after paying for all of my expenses. Now, the next category you want to add here, if you have a side hustle or another way that you make money, again, you want to put that amount in this cell right here. For me, the way that I make money on the side, first and foremost, is by locuming. So that just basically means I work extra shifts as a doctor. That's my kind of second job that I do alongside my full-time job. On an average month, I'll put in, let's say, an example here of £600. So I'm earning £600 extra by doing these extra shifts. Now, for you, if that is selling cookies, running a side business, no matter what that is, it doesn't really matter. Put that number in over there. And we're essentially just trying to get an idea of the total amount that you take home, the total amount that you earn on a monthly basis. Next column here is side hustle. So let's say, from YouTube, a random number, let's say I earn £1,500 on the side. What we have here and what the Excel has done is that it's calculated my total monthly income after paying for tax. And like I said, all those automatic deductions that get taken from your money. So the number here that I've got is £4,760. That is essentially adding up my salary. It's adding up the extra money I get from my second job and the money I get from my side hustle, which is YouTube, for example. The total I have here, I know for a fact, is how much I earn on a monthly basis after paying for all the deductions. Now, here's a really, really important part. What you want to find out and what Excel does for you is to work out your disposable monthly income. So what do I mean by your disposable monthly income? What that means is once you've taken away all of the money that you spent on your expenses, which we calculated earlier on here, we take that number away from your total salary. So essentially what it's doing here is £4,760 minus my expenses. So I know exactly how much I have left over in my bank account to actually use to either invest or to save up for a future event. This is how much I have in my bank account that I personally call disposable monthly income, which is the income again that I have left over after paying for everything to do with my living costs in my life. Now you can see here below I worked out my total yearly income after tax and also the total yearly disposable income as well after tax. That doesn't really matter too much in this video. Let's actually focus on how much you get per month. So as I said in this example, I have £2,950 as an example left over at the end of the month that I can use to do whatever I like. And that brings us on to the second part of the video. Once you actually work out how much you have left over in your bank account after paying for absolutely everything, what do you actually do with that money? And for the second part of the video, I'll be telling you guys my suggestion on what you should be doing with the money that you have left over in your bank account after all deductions. Okay, so that brings us on to the next part of the Excel file here, which is what I call your pots. So before I go into the math side, essentially what I do with the money that I have left over per month, my disposable monthly income, I then take that money and I put it into different pots or different bank accounts in my bank, and I separate it and I do different things with those money. So for example, I have a separate bank account or pot for the bills and expenses, which we've already worked out previously is £1,809. I have a separate bank account for my guilt-free spending and also a separate bank account for my investments and also my savings. Now, every person will have a different opinion on how much you should invest, how much you should save, how much you should spend on your expenses and stuff. But this here is a rough number, a rough idea from what I've gathered from all the research that I've done. What people normally suggest, or what these financial advisors normally suggest, is that you should spend around 50% of your income to live on. So obviously the less money that you spend on your living expenses, the more you can actually save. So 50% is a rough idea. If you're able to live off of 40%, 30%, 20% of your income, that is fantastic. But a rough idea is 50%. What people also suggest is you should put aside 10%, 10 to 20% really, of your money, guilt-free spending. So if you want to spend money going to Marbella with your friends, if you want to spend money buying a new Xbox game, no matter what that is, people normally suggest, or these experts suggest, 10 to 20% of your salary should go for that. Now for me, I'm a bit more parsimonious, a bit more frugal. I normally spend less than 10% on these guilt-free spending, and that's just personally a number that I want. Sometimes that might go up to 20% if, let's say, it's Christmas time or it's summertime and I want to travel. But as a rough number for myself, and this is the key thing, you need to have these numbers tailored to you. I choose 10% of my money to go to guilt-free spending. The next category of what people suggest is 30% of your money should go to investments. So we'll talk about investments a bit later on, and 10% should go into your savings. Now this savings should be for any future event. It could be either to go to your emergency savings pot, it could be to saving up for a wedding, for a house, whatever that number is. 10% is usually what they suggest. Now quickly touching on that point of savings, I would suggest you have 3 to 6 months of a separate savings account, which I call the emergency savings account, where you have enough money to last 3 to 6 months on, just in case if you lost your job, or you got hit with a big breakdown for a car, or if you're in America or a different part of the world and you have a big health expense. You want to make sure you put aside 3 to 6 months of money that you can completely live off of. So in my case, that would be 3 times this number here, 3 times my living expenses, or up to 6 months. Again, depending on how, confident you are or how anxious you might be. I personally only have 3 months in emergency savings. Some people might want to be more safe and have up to 6 months, actually saving their money aside for emergencies. Now, again, I'm going to quickly summarize here. These pots are separate bank accounts that I have in my bank where I put the money immediately aside as soon as I get paid. I personally like to use Monzo for this. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check out Monzo and join them. I think you get like £5 off if you use my link, but not sponsored whatsoever. I've used Monzo for a number of years because it's so easy to open up these separate pots where you can have a pot for, as I said, expenses, savings, whatever. So I have probably around 10 pots on my Monzo bank account. But if you don't use Monzo, you can open up separate bank accounts as well with whatever bank you choose, whatever bank you use. So step 1, I get paid. Step 2, I work out exactly how much I have in my bank account after getting paid. Step 3, with whatever money that I have left over, I then divide into 4 separate pots. Each pot is for bills and expenses, guilt-free spending, investments, and lastly, savings. And it's pretty much that simple. Once you've divided all this money aside, you know that you'll definitely be able to pay for your rent, your living expenses. You have money set aside for guilt-free spending. So when you spend that money, you don't feel too bad about that. You have money for your savings and you have money for your investments. Now, what you do with the rest of the money is completely up to you. If you have investments, I personally invest my money in the S&P 500. So on a monthly basis, I'll put this figure here, 30% of my income into the S&P 500. Again, that's basically a stock market where I like to invest in. If you want a separate video on how to invest, then leave a comment down below and I'll get into that. But this really here is the most important step that you have to do, guys. This is the basics of how to manage your finances. There are so many people where they just get a number on their account, let's say £3,000 from their salary, and they just spend haphazardly, not thinking about where their money is going and not planning for the future. So this really is my step-by-step method on how to set money aside for your living, for your investments, for your savings, and for having fun. I hope it's been somewhat informative. If you want me to move on and talk about what you can do with your investments, with your savings, leave a comment down below and a like on the video, and I'll be happy to do that. Please make sure to subscribe with notifications on to never miss another upload. And before you guys leave, here are a bunch of videos on my channel that you might actually enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.